Nice. All right, you're good to go. Thanks for recording now, and you got a hot mic. All right.
Just want to pitch out with this for breaking.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for that help.
That's it.
Yeah, how many months have you done with us?
Sorry. So 6 months for you. Yes.
I was thinking your name.
Yeah.
Your breakdown.
All. Catherine from project. Catherine. Which ties it in like, so. Yeah. How many got it?
So Jim just got under to involve. Plans and she gets not down.
It'll be good. So the big plans are gonna be.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna have to bring it in these minutes.
Yeah, yeah, so you need to be out of the chief.
Awesome.
Who is it, Benjamin? You guys are talking.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. No problem.
Yeah. We like our band, we're going to do. That's my feature part. He's okay.
Yeah.
And I use the door being closed as our cue that they want us to start. So for those who don't know me, my name is Wes Shy. I'm the director of the Northeast region. So our officer based out of Fort Wayne. And we're going to talk today about the Fin 9.0 spreadsheet. And I'll just let you know that in Northeast, we use this spreadsheet a ton. There's a couple different reasons why we use it. Number one, I'd say when entrepreneurs come to the office and they just have the idea, they're not sure about things. We use this to make sure the math works and get that feasibility test for them. If we can fill this in and it looks profitable and it can cash flow with that and things like that, that just gives them the confidence to keep going and take the next step. And then I'd say the second big use we use is the lenders in Northeast really like the spreadsheet because once it's built, they can use it to quickly do multiple scenarios. If the bank changes out or the structure changes out, you can quickly come in here with a couple seconds, update the spreadsheet and get them back to the lender with a whole new scenario. So when I started using this, I am a numbers oriented person. My background was in finance. So when I tore into the spreadsheet, I wanted to see what all the formulas do and what tabs were calculating where. And so I'd say whether you're good with numbers or whether you're not, that might be a place to start with a spreadsheet to just figure out where the formulas are taking you and how the tabs interact. And like I say, when we help an entrepreneur do this step, when they end up with this spreadsheet, I don't know, there's 70 some tabs in here, but they end up with a spreadsheet and they think, wow, you did all this work for me when really, once you get proficient at this, I mean, you can probably do a 3-year projection and I mean, I hate to say how fast I can do them. I can do them really quickly, but you know, a half hour to an hour, you can have a 3-year projection built for the client. And when you give this to them, like I say, they're gonna be like, wow, I can't believe, you did all this for me. And it does reinforce what they're thinking about their business if the math works in the spreadsheet. So when I first tore into it, one thing I noticed is the first tab here is an instruction tab. And if you really want to see how the tabs are interacting with each other and how the formulas are interacting from tab to tab, if you click on each one of these individual instruction links, it'll take you to the area of the spreadsheet where you need to input the information. So that's a pretty simple one there, just name and date. But you can see all I had to do was click on it and it took me where it wants me to input information. So you can do that all the way down this instruction sheet. Anywhere you click on the information, it takes you to the tab where it's looking for you to input, like I said, information. So the thing that I'll do, whether it's an existing business or a startup business, if it's an existing business, they'll probably bring you historical financial information. That's the data you need to be able to start to input for a new projection. You can sit down and review that information with them. They can explain some things. You have questions on the numbers of their historical operating performance. I like to just have that conversation with them, and then I like to do the spreadsheet for them. I do give them the spreadsheet when they ask for it, but it is easy for a first timer to corrupt formulas and get stuff messed up. So to me, I'd rather have the conversation with them outside the spreadsheet, get understanding of their numbers, and then I'll help them populate the spreadsheet itself. I tell them all the time, I'd rather have you be an expert at making whatever your product is. Don't be an expert on this spreadsheet. Later, if you have time, they can do it, but I'll help them at the beginning. Same if it's a startup entity. I actually usually work through them in the process a little backwards. I'll have them identify every operating expense that's reoccurring on a monthly basis that they can think of. And they've given that to me handwritten on notebook paper. They give me an Excel file. Any format, I'll take that in, but that helps us start to input the expense line items here. And what I'd say is, again, rather than have them try to fill in template, I find it easier if I help them fill it in and then we sit down and review it. And that way I can say, oh, remember we talked about these expense line items? Well, here they are lined up month by month. I have found that to be, my experience, easier than having them try to fill it in and then we review it. I think once you get a handle on where these links take you, then you'll be able to come up to the spreadsheet and you'll just be able to go directly to those tabs. You won't have to keep coming back to the instruction sheet once you get a handle on what information needs to be filled in. Yeah.
How can you determine the industry benchmarking?
So, again, this is a different style that I use. I use some of our other reporting for benchmarks rather than this, but you can do the effort to fill this in. To me, I just found a better use of time. I can go pull an industry report from BizMiner and have that and just use this for projections. I find that easier than trying to make all those formulas calculated. So in the end, when I get this filled in with a client, I say that I'm probably using only about 20 to 30 of the first tabs, not the back end of it. Again, just because I feel it's more efficient to use the other databases we have access to. So again, the process is just kind of like I described there. I sit down with the client, they've identified their monthly startup cost to me. And so I'll sit down with them and we'll just start going through the process of entering their expense line items. And you'll see right away, let's say they tell me they need, $5,000 a month to replace their existing income. You can see all I had to do was enter month one and it populates the 12 months for me. So if it's truly a startup or we're just trying to do our best guess estimate, you can see that it's not a time consuming exercise to go in and fill, month by month all the way across. I put in what they need to replace their day salary, their day job salary they get now, and then automatically calculates what the payroll taxes are for me. Again, they may come to the table with the fact that they're going to have some employees. We can throw that number in there as well. And you'll see again, populates, and then we already got the payroll taxes included. Another reason why I don't use the industry comparisons on here is because I've usually pulled BizMiner ahead of time. And that's another thing you can do to help with the startup to fill in some of these misaligned items. You've got the industry numbers, ahead of time. So again, I'm just gonna pretend like the owner is giving me some of these numbers. And so again, if this is a startup company, there's already an information for them to start analyzing and, hey, is this a feasible business and will this work? Because we've already identified that it's gonna take them $12,908 a month to operate the business. And again, this is why I typically start with the expenses first. Because for a couple different reasons. One, I want them to get a feel on that and go, yeah, this is what I was thinking. I feel pretty good about that number. But also, typically, these are the expense numbers or numbers they can find out, and they can be known numbers. They know what rent's gonna be, they know what their salary they need to take, they know what insurance is gonna cost. So we know those numbers. We're not all the time just estimating those. So again, like I say, I do it a little backwards. I usually have them start with the expenses first, and then back into what the revenue line needs to be.
You mentioned the one owner's, revenue, payable. What if they have multiple?
It would just all be under owner's salary, but it would just be, you would include multiple owners in that dollar amount.
Okay, so you just have to put everybody's, in there? Okay, got it.
Yeah, and then I'll show you one other tab here. This CASS tab here stands for critical assumptions. And so if you want to put notes in for any number that you've got previously, you can put owner's salary consists of this dollar amount and include salary for Dave, Mark, and you can delineate that if you want to.
Thank you.
I would say, if you're doing something with an SBA loan, I would probably make sure something's filled in this tab, because SBA is gonna be looking for how they got to their revenue projection and the revenue estimate. SBA might be looking for some expense description too, but I definitely would not leave this tab on a project. So here again, I did at one time take the time to understand how all this page is calculating. If you look up at the cell here, you can put 1, 2, or 3 or 4 into that. How it's calculating is detailed here. And so you can ask the spreadsheet to do certain things for you, like you can build in monthly increases, you can build in based on previous month's sales. This is just me personally. I find it a better use of my time to do that off to the side on scratch paper and factor in manually what I think those revenue numbers are gonna be. But you're totally welcome to obviously use the spreadsheet and try to make it calculate for you. But I'd say 99.9% of the time, I'm just using option number 1 here. You can see it took away some of those calculating formulas. And I'm just manually entering, and you can see again, it populated for me when I just did the first month. Again, it's just my personal preference, but I tried to use those formulas. I found it very hectic and more time consuming than what it was worth. But it's there for you. Those methods will, calculate several years for you if you want to do increases based on the formulas. You can see the cells that are kind of in the middle, percentage year 2 increase, percentage year 3 increase. You can make the spreadsheet calculate those for you. Again, I just do it real quick on a calculator and enter it manually because it only takes me seconds to do that versus trying to make sure those formulas were all correct. So now if I go back to the year one, estimate. You can see now that the net income line, this shows profitable. Based on the revenue I put in. And those of you that are good with numbers, probably know that there's one more expense that is not calculated here yet. And if you go down here, for the cost of goods sold section, it allows you to put a percentage in of whatever revenue it is, the cost of goods sold. So in this case, I'm just gonna put in 3%, just because I want it to still calculate profitable.
Are you pulling COGS from Biz Minor?
Yeah, typically, or the entrepreneur's telling me what he expects the percentage to be, or a combination of the two. But all I had to do was put that 3% percentage in. And again, not a realistic model, but you can see that now it calculated the cost of goods sold all across those 12 months for me. Again, let's say the entrepreneur tells you that their cost of goods sold expects to be X. You take it to the lender says, we want to be more conservative. We want you to make that number a greater percentage. 2 seconds, you come in here and you change that percentage, and now it calculates all the way through the spreadsheet for you. You didn't have to do anything other than, one cell to update the whole spreadsheet. A big reason why lenders like this template is because it is super easy on the loan piece, as I mentioned. And so now that the revenue and expenses are built for year one, now we can come in here and say, okay, let's say they need a $50,000 term loan to start. Again, either maybe you've had a conversation with the bank, or the entrepreneur's told you what he expects the rate to be, or just you've seen so many term sheets, you kind of know where rates are at the time. You can make an estimate of what a term loan interest rate might be. And then, 5 years is kind of standard on a conventional term loan. So then right there, you got the monthly payment calculated for you. Again, you don't have to do anything. All you did was enter the amount, the rate, the term of the loan. And if I go back to year one estimate, now our interest rate is populated into the line item for expenses. And if I go into the cash flow tab, there's all our revenue and expenses. And then down here at the bottom, there's our interest on line 50, and on line 63, there's our principal for that $50,000 loan. And if I keep going down here to the bottom, the cash balance, the beginning balance of cash, the change in cash, again, lender's gonna love this because he's gonna be able to, the lender, I said he or she, is gonna be able to look through there and be able to see, is the business gonna be short or positive on their cash flow? And again, if you come in here and change the loan amount, change the rate, change any of that, all you have to do that is in that one tab and that one cell, that all's gonna calculate for you. In 2 minutes, you can do multiple scenarios with this spreadsheet. Another big thing that the entrepreneur and a lender will like is this debt coverage ratio tab. If you're not familiar with finance, it kind of walks you through on the left the calculation this tab is making. It's taking your profit, adding back amortization and interest, and it's getting the total available cash for debt service. And then line 13, that 50,000 we entered, the annual repayment on that 50,000 is $12,086. So the spreadsheet is taking that total available, dividing it by the total debt service, and getting the ratio, in this case, 11.26, which would be out of this world coverage. A lender's looking for that borrower to be 1.25 at the lowest. So if you're 11, you're probably overestimating what you need your sales or expenses to be. You can probably back off a little bit. And then another cool thing about the spreadsheet from a lender's perspective, this tab way down here, one of the only ones I use to the far right, is called transaction balance sheet tab. And if I page down on this tab, you'll see that that $50,000 loan that we put in, the current portion of that loan is on line 43. The long-term portion is on 54. And so from a liability standpoint, again, you don't have to know numbers that well to see that, hey, our loan is on the liability side of this chart. And you can see down there, line 77, where it says check. It shows, there's a $50,000 difference on this chart. We need, when those check, you need checks anywhere you see this to be zero. So we know we're $50,000 off. Well, the reason being is because we haven't put a corresponding asset in that what are they gonna use that 50,000 for? And let's just, in this case, just say they're gonna just buy inventory for it. Now, if I go back down, my check is zero because I got 50,000 assets. I have 50,000 in loan. My transaction balance sheet works and it balances. Another cool trick thing here too is it asks you, do you want to carry forward to the sources and uses sheet? And so if you tell it yes, if I just tell it yes. No.
Where do you tell it is?
Yeah, right there. If you tell that yes. Did I mess something up when I hit that button?
You get to enter, so.
Yeah, I put a Y up there. You don't want that Y up there. There we go. So I check at the bottom is zero, so I know my chart balances. I hit yes, that I want it to carry forward to the sources and usage sheet. And so now if I go way back over here at the beginning, this is another tab that a banker loves. Because picture a more sophisticated project than I entered here. But you've got the source of funds and the total right there. And you got the use of funds in the same total right there, so it equals. So when your entrepreneur goes to a lender and makes a loan request, there's two things that the lender's gonna ask them. Main first two questions is one, what's the money for? The source and uses tells them exactly what's gonna happen with the funding. And then second thing is, how you gonna pay us back? And that's what the rest of this spreadsheet shows. So that's why I say the first step is your entrepreneur thinks, man, you get all this from me. I can't believe this. This is awesome. Second step is they take us to the lender. Lender goes, man, I follow along what you're talking about. I mean, you're really putting in the best chance of success to get approval for the funding that they're looking for. Let me show you one more cool thing and then.
Okay, before you move off of that, I was a little late. Did you already fill in the source and uses? Because I start there. Or did the trans tab?
The trans tab fills this in for you.
Wow.
I usually don't input anything here. I let the trans tab
Okay, wow.
fill this in for me.
Okay.
Another super cool thing about this sheet is when we were back in revenue and I put in the 25,000 a month in revenue, you can see it populated year 2 and it also did year 3 for us. Let me go here and let's just say they're gonna increase revenue a little bit in year 2. So now in year 2, I've got the 30,000 a month in revenue. Cost of goods sold is still calculating from the 3% percentage we put in. And now if I go right here to expense growth, click on it. And let's say I put in 3%. It calculated 3% from year one. And then if I go year three and do the same thing. I just did the second 2 years and you saw how long it took me to do it. So again, that's why I say your client's gonna go, oh my gosh, you did all this for me in one meeting. And the last step that I take with them then is I just sit down with them and make sure that they understand all these numbers that we put in place. So what I mean by that is when they go to the lender says, okay, your spreadsheet shows you're gonna do 300,000 in sales in year one. I want them to be able to tell the lender, well, here's how I do that. I do that by either so many units per month at this price. That's how I get to the 25,000 a month. And then also tell the lender, these are the physical activities that we're gonna do in order to be able to sell that many per month. I mean, if they can take that spreadsheet to them and then explain that number. Again, the lender is trying to pick holes with this, and if they can't, the lender really doesn't, they're gonna get to the approval in a little easier fashion than I'm positive than if that entrepreneur was just walking in on their own with a homemade or handmade projection sheet. So, I mean, if I had started this, if I had real numbers, that's pretty much how long it takes to build a 3-year projection, just an amount of time that we all sat here and went through the process. But I say if you want to learn how the spreadsheet calculates and where all the formulas go, I would just mess around with this link and see where these take you to and enter some numbers and see what it does to some other parts of the spreadsheet. And when you do go, like I'll use your use tab as an example. When you go and click on those cells up top, it tells you where it's getting that formula from. So that's what I mean, how you can figure out how the tabs are communicating and where formulas are going. It tells you, so if you see a mistake somewhere and if your checks aren't zeros, you can go try to find out where you put a wrong number in or where the formula might be wonky and it's not calculating correctly. On the cash flow tab too, no, balance sheet tab, where it is, there's another check on it. And you can see down across the bottom, those are all zeros. So if you have made a mistake somewhere, that check will have a number in it. You'll know, you gotta go back looking for something that's wrong. And one other easy general rule is if the cell has a blue font, it's a formula, or it's an input cell. If it's black, it's a formula. So kind of know every time if you're going in a cell that's blackened out, you're probably in a cell that's a formula-based cell. If it's blue, it's a cell that is input, wait for you to enter some info. And if you really, I mean, like I said, when you really get this dialed in, I was working last week before I came here with a home healthcare business. Huge on insurance payments. And so a tab like this with your accounts receivable, right now is showing that she gets 100% paid in cash. It's probably not gonna be the case. You can save 50%. 30 days, say 20, another 20, and then a 10. So now that entrepreneur is giving you a realistic expectation of how their payments come in and how the time it takes. And I'll go back to this DCR tab. It's factored in that adjustment that I just made. So that was 11, a coverage ratio of 11 before, and now it's dropped down to 9. That's because the spreadsheet's taking into account that wait time for the entrepreneur to get those payments in.
Wes?
Yeah.
And you don't have to do this by any means, but just a yes, no, I use it, I don't use it. There's a lot of tabs down there. Can we just recap, just like, yes, we use, yes, yes, yes. And kind of summarize which ones are we supposed to be looking at?
If you get pretty handy with the revenue tab, the INC1 tab, and the loan tab, I mean, you're 90% of the way there, yeah.
Trans tab also.
I'd say that's, if you're including that this can be used for the lender, then I would definitely include that trans tab in as well. If you're just trying to give that entrepreneur, a sense of feasibility and does the math work, you probably can just stick with the INC1, the revenue and the loan tab.
And the source and use tab, I will say, the instructions tell you to go to source and use.
Yeah.
You can just double check it by going to the trans tab.
Like I say, I used to get hung up on the source use tab too. Once I discovered that trans balance sheet tab, if you fill that in, it seems like it populates a bunch of the rest of this spreadsheet. And again, I would take a scenario and I would go out next time you're does, and I'd just fill in that trans balance sheet tab and just see all the places it populates. It'll tell you when you look at the formulas.
Two questions. The first one is, this is just things that I picked up along the way. One advisor told me to use the loan tab and not to use the 504 tab. Is that good information? He told me to build the 504 into the loan tab and only use that tab.
So if I just use the loan tab today to be more brief since we're limited on time. But when it's a 504 loan, I'll use the 504 tab. Since I can show you quick, let me show you.
Yeah, I've been in it. I just,
Yeah.
this was another advisor giving me some guidance. So I kind of avoided the 504 tab since then.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, I think the 504 tab is pretty easy, actually. So I'm going back to the trans balance sheet tab. And you can see the column G and the column H.
Yeah.
One is for non-504, the other one's for 504. So when I did my example, we were a non-504, so I put it in H column. If you're doing a 504, let's just add a $500,000 building to this project. Oops, sorry. So now we've got a $500,000 building. Now I'm gonna go back to the 504 tab. Still in for me.
You did that
The amounts are there, yeah.
Cool.
So I come in here, this is 50, 35, 15 set up, but let's say it's the typical 50, 40, 10. I have to put the interest rates in, 6% for the CDC. 7% for the bank part. You can probably change the 20s to 25 if you want, but now again, I'll go to the DCR, figure in the debt service ratio. We had a $500,000 building. Our cash flow ratio is still 2.3. We're still good for the bank, and matter of seconds, we changed the structure on the spreadsheet.
That's
So, yeah, I would use that. I would really look at that trans balance sheet tab and get back and
Oh, cool.
mess around with it and see where it all populates. And I like I say, I go there instead of the source and uses tab.
So the second question is, when I joined, the SBDC, I was told this is proprietary software and I only give my clients, PDF printouts. The other day, I picked up on a client from a previous advisor. The first thing he did was ship me his N9 spreadsheet. So do we send it to the client or do we not?
I give it to the client
You do?
and I'll share it with even economic development folks. And here's the reason why. At the bottom of the use tab, you probably all saw the email where they updated the code here. Every 9 months, 12 months, that code expires. So if somebody's trying to steal the proprietary formulas in the spreadsheet, after 9 months, they won't be able to use it anymore. So I figure, yeah, somebody may try to get some legs with it for a few months, but after a while, it's gonna expire and then they won't be able to use it. So, I mean, I've had entrepreneurs that are Excel whizzes and they'll bring this back and I'm amazed at the stuff they've done with it. I'll be like, wow, that's incredible. Some people like to put all the years, the INC1, INC2, INC3 together and then the cash flows together. And I've seen people do that. So I haven't had any problem sharing it because I know that there's a timeout feature.
That's a good point.
And sometimes when, if it's not an entrepreneur, if it's a other agency asking me for it, I usually give them the heads up. I'm gonna share it with you, but just know it's got a timeout feature that you can only use it for so long.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious to know, why this is your choice over like projection, the score, financial forecast spreadsheets and so forth.
And life planning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, life plan, I can give it an easy answer, because that's just my personal preference. When I see the output that life plans creates, to me, I just don't like the format. It's, to me, if my former life being a lender, if somebody would have brought me that, there's too many numbers for me to even, I wouldn't read any of it, because there's so many numbers and the way it's laid out. That's just me personally, though. I do like life plan as far as how you can input the numbers and how it walks you through. That part's great. I wish you could more modify the output that it creates. To me, it's just too many charts. It's the last, I don't know, 20 some pages of that is all just number charts. And I just don't like the way it lays out. But that, again, that's just my personal preference. You could talk to the next guy and they would say they love the way the life plan puts that out. I didn't have any problem with the projection hub. I used it a couple times. I didn't see a huge, they were about equivalent for me. And so I thought, well, I'll just keep using the one that I have all the know-how and I really like, but I didn't have any problem with the projection hub one. I liked it as well.
Thank you.
I like that break.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just the break even tab too, I like, and I give that to lenders, and for me, just in layman's terms, I like to show them. Because you can do scenario planning at the bottom, or shows different scenarios, like if you oversold this idea of revenue.
No, absolutely awesome for the lender and the entrepreneur as well. I didn't mention this one because there's really no inputs on it. But this can also be useful for the entrepreneur when they go talk to the lender. We're projecting 300,000 in year one revenue here, but based on this, you can tell they only need to hit 207 to cover expenses, 214 to cash flow. So when they can walk into the bank and say, I'm projecting A, but I only need to do B to make this all work for you. Again, it makes it hard for them to argue. The bank guys go, well, yeah, you got this thought out. Some good point on the break even tab.
Have there been any industries that you find problematic in using this?
Industries that maybe like some real estate projects are difficult because it's like they're flipping homes or they're collecting rent is the only thing that they do. Not that this can't be used for it, but it's a pretty boring spreadsheet if rent is their only revenue coming in. All their expenses are just waste removal, so it doesn't kind of work for scenarios like that. But that's really, all I can think of. The only other thing I think of that makes the spreadsheet maybe a little cumbersome to use is, we're doing this January to December. And so if a company was starting in mid-year, you kind of got to decide what you're going to do. You can make your numbers start in the 6th month here. You have to manually enter them. It won't do it automatically like we did here. Or I'll make the first month July instead of January. And then you can still do all the things that we did here. I base my decision on that. I'm based on whether is there a ramp up period. If it's a business that has a long ramp up, I probably would show some zeros and then numbers start to populate. If it's one that's pretty easy to start up, like a single entrepreneur, small entrepreneur that's going to work for themselves, they don't need a whole lot of going out buying equipment or getting anything ready. They're just going to be like an IT service or a service related business. You can probably just make the first month, July or whatever month they're going to open. I'd say too, another strategy in Northeast, I say lenders like it if the 504, if you work with any of the CDCs, some have local CDCs or statewide CDC, they love this as well because again, it's just all laid out. And when they send it on to the SBA, that's the other thing. SBA gets when they get their loan package, they get a spreadsheet that says Indiana Small Business Development Center created the sections. So again, how's the SBA gonna say, oh, these aren't any good? Well, because the Network Day Fund helped us create the whole spreadsheet. So again, I just use that as strategy for our local CDC. And again, they come to us about every time they want to get before projection created because they know they're gonna send that up to the SBA. And if you want to talk to anybody from our office, Billy Wunderlich, if anybody knows her, not a numbers background. First looked at the spreadsheet and she had high anxiety, huge nervousness about trying to use this. And she just did a couple, worked through. Now when she gets a more sophisticated one, she'll fill it all in, the entrepreneur. She'll bring it to me and say, hey, did I miss anything? What do you think? And she's pretty proficient. I mean, I can't. Most of what she does is the same way I would have done it at this point now when she's putting them together. So if you're not numbers oriented, like I say, if you just take some time, load a couple examples, see how those cells flow, I think you'll get to where you can use it. And like I say, when that entrepreneur walks away, I've already said it twice, but I'll say it a third time. When that entrepreneur walks away and they're like, man, I can't believe, you did all this, in one meeting. They really think you did a ton of work. They think you spent, hours and hours. So I don't tell them any different. I like, yeah, woo, that was really tough. I can't believe we got that all put out there. So yeah, anybody has any questions now or when you get back to the office, you can email me. I'll answer anything I can on the spreadsheet. I mean, daily might be a little exaggeration, but I mean, I know I'm using it weekly with entrepreneurs.
Cool.
Thank you.
Do you use the historical balance sheet tab at all? Or?
So, I mean, if you have an existing business, you can go fill that in first and it'll again populate some more areas for you. To me, I found it more work than the end use you'll get out of it. I mean, it really doesn't do a whole lot for the lender. A lender's gonna do their own analysis on the existing financials anyway. So anything we can do with this, they're not really gonna look at it that close. But I have filled it in. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, go back to the office and start using it.
We're a lender, I wanted to ask about that. Do you have any times take the PO and just put it in such a SB? Are they doing their own?
Certified enough. They're pretty much in that.
Because I was wondering.
I think it's going to vary from letter to letter, but I like First Source Bank, I think uses this and sends it on to the SBA for approval.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure.
So you generally send the functioning and stuff.
If I'm sending it, just, I'll say, yeah.
We all learn from the same guy else who kind of has here from.
That's why I'm asking.
He was next. Yeah, so it's like, yes, start messing with your numbers and start doing alternate scenarios. So we make bankers packages. Adopted.
Well, I think, say you're just there, just a great way, in my office, I make sure I always have a one.
Yeah.
And when I sit down, somebody else.
Go back to this.
Yeah. No, I need you, Gary was great. So Gary was our store and yeah, so. If it didn't have the timeout feature, I probably would be there because I do worry about.
I think it's making people sponsored it out. Yeah. He never told us what proprietary and how to work something proprietary feature.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, somebody really crazy could say, oh, I got something I can sell, but
Yeah.
who's gonna do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we do it all, I say we are.
Yeah, okay.
All purchase it, I really do.
Yeah.
I have your too. I think it helps, it gives you your answer. Yeah. Like, I guess I should talk to them about marketing.
I'm always like, let's do this first thing, math works.
Yeah.
And you gotta work on it until the math does work.
Yes, right. That's the whole point. And I should, I like to use expense, the income statement first before revenue. Everything that, but that's what live license to do. Start with your expense.
Yeah, and well, just because those are numbers, like I say, you can find out,
Yeah.
and revenue, we don't know, we just estimate that, so.
One of the things that I do a lot is use BizMinder with the percentages that they say for the industry
I do that.
in that same column.